tips to help get your digital estate in order. The number one thing you can do is create an inventory list of all your online accounts and passwords for your fiduciary. Make a list of your digital property, including your online accounts, your usernames, your passwords, your security questions, anything that you have to do that has to deal with an online account. Write it down and keep it somewhere safe, not somewhere convenient. I stress that because if you store all your passwords in a notebook that says passwords and it's in your desk drawer where your computer is, that's not safe. Because someone breaks into your home, the first thing they're going to do is that when they see your computers, they're going to start pulling out the drawers to see where's their password book. So keep it somewhere safe, not somewhere convenient. And keep it updated. Many times we have to change our usernames. We have to change our passwords. So make sure you keep this document or documents updated. I am currently working with a few in-home clients of mine, and we're going through their passwords. There's one in particular that I'm working with now, who I've been working with for probably five or six sessions, trying to organize all her passwords. Why it's taking it so long? Because she has about 30 passwords, maybe even more. And she has some passwords written on scraps of paper, some passwords she has in a notebook, some passwords she has on her phone, some passwords she has on her iPad, some passwords she has stored on her computer. They're all over the place. They're completely disorganized. And she has written down multiple passwords for the same account. So she's not sure which account is, or which password is the right password. So what we're doing is going through every single account, logging in, typing in the password. If the password is incorrect, then we reset the password and we write it down and we create a master list. Once the master list is created and confirmed, we throw everything else out. One of the things you can do is what's called a password manager software or password manager app.
If you're like most people, trying to keep track of your different internet passwords can be like herding cats. Now take a guy like Don here, who uses the internet to work, socialize, organize, and play. He's on Facebook and Twitter, he's got 4 different email accounts, he blogs about his passion for doing daredevil stunts, manages his investments, Skypes, sells things, shops, watches movies, and on and on and on. And each and every account he uses has its own username and password to keep track of. But fortunately, there's an easy way to securely save and protect your password on all your phones, tablets, or computers. It's called Password Box. Password Box is a virtual safety deposit box using the same encryption methods as the US government, and only you have the master password to unlock it. Adding passwords is simple. Password Box automatically saves them while you surf the web. Then just click on the site you want to log into and ta-da! Like magic, you're logged in. It's a real time saver. What's also great is that Password Box allows you to share your passwords with your family or coworkers during your life, and even after. Yep, that's right. If Don here is really smart, he'll pass his important accounts on to his loved ones and preserve his digital legacy before attempting to jump the Grand Canyon on a Vespa next month. Good luck, Don. So join Don here and download Password Box for free now at passwordbox.com.
So there are lots of what are called password manager apps and password manager software. These are probably the most popular. The reason I'm showing you this is just so that you're aware of it. I personally am not necessarily recommending it, but I do want you to be aware of it. Basically, how password managers work is, so let's pretend you download and install this password manager app called LastPass. You basically create a master password that gets you in the app. Once you're in the application, you can enter all the passwords for all your accounts, and they're stored in one location inside a software application. It's very, very convenient. And, you know, everything that I read about password managers say they're safe and so on. But I'm not convinced yet. I'm a little bit old school when it comes to passwords. What I don't like about a password manager idea is that I don't want to give LastPass or Keeper or Dashlane potential access to all my passwords. I don't want a third party that I don't know to have potential access to my passwords. All of them claim that they don't, and maybe they don't. It's just I'm personally not. I don't like that idea. At least not right now in 2022. I've got many colleagues who use Dashlane. Dashlane is probably one of the most popular ones, and they've never had a problem with Dashlane. It's very, very convenient. It's super easy because they only need to memorize one password, and that's the password to get in. So I'm just sharing it with you. I'm not necessarily promoting it. Okay, so tip number 1, create an inventory list of all your passwords and usernames. Tip number 2 is amend your will or other estate planning documents to specify who should have access to your digital assets. Is there someone in your family that you don't want to have access to your accounts? Maybe you don't want anyone in your family to have access to your accounts. Maybe you want only an attorney or a best friend or whatever that might be. But specify that, update that in your will. Stipulate what you want to do with your email, your social media accounts, your online accounts, your iCloud account, whatever it is, that account that you might have. And make as many decisions as you can in advance. Would you want your Facebook account to be deleted or memorialized? Do you want a family member to have access to your email accounts, or would you prefer that they be deleted after your death? For some reason, do certain email accounts need to remain open? These are things that you just have to just ask yourself. Are there digital assets such as music that you've purchased or ebooks that you've purchased that you might be able to pass along to somebody? In the video we saw, the son of the mother who passed away was able to find airline miles and be able to pass those airline miles on to family members. If you make your choices before death and describe your wishes in your will, then you have a better chance of making sure your digital assets are handled exactly the way you want them to be. So I'm just going to share a little personal note about these particular topics. My mom has given what I consider one of the great gifts that she has given me and my siblings. She has planned her funeral completely. Headstone purchased, in the ground, waiting for the final date to be added. Her funeral is paid for. Flowers, what flowers she wants has been determined. What songs she wants played at her funeral has been determined. I helped my mom write her obituary so that she wrote what she wants to say in her obituary, as opposed to leaving it up to me or my siblings to try to figure out what we want to say. The fact that my mom has taken care of all this for us has relieved so much stress, because the day she dies is going to be awful, and we are going to be in mourning. And the last thing that we want to have to do is think about what mom would have wanted. Everything is written down. And I say this is a great gift because none of us have to worry about it. We never have to guess what she wanted. So I stress to you, not only, if you don't have a will, create a will. If you're plan your funeral arrangements while you still can. Add these types of things in terms of your digital assets to your will to designate who you want to have what. I'll also say that it doesn't even have to do with your death. Okay, if you're incapacitated, if you're in the hospital for some reason, and someone needs to take care of your accounts, has to pay your bills online, they need to have access to your passwords. A perfect example happened to my cousin. My aunt was hospitalized for months. He did not have any access to any of her online accounts to pay any bills or anything like that because she hadn't written down any of her passwords, or at least he couldn't find them anywhere. And she was incapacitated. She couldn't tell him. So if anything, just do it and be able to pass this information on to someone that you trust. Tip number 3, the one thing that none of us do, which is read the terms of service. Read the privacy policy and terms of service agreement for each online account that you're about to join. More and more online companies have specific policies regarding the account of a deceased user. None of us read the terms of service because they're 40 pages long and they're this tiny type. So none of us are going to do it. But if you want to find out specifically your rights in terms of your account upon your death, it's going to be in those terms. In many cases, you can designate a person to be your legacy contact upon your death. So if something happens to you, whether you die or whether you're incapacitated, you can set up somebody, you can designate another person to manage that account for you. And you can do it legally now. So companies like Google and Amazon and PayPal and Facebook and AOL, all these companies have all instituted policies around a deceased user's account. And it all started with Facebook and that video that I shared with you in the very beginning of Jesse Berlin's dad. That was the catalyst. So for example, Google has a policy, and if any of you have a Gmail account, if you have a Gmail account, that means you have a Google account. So what you can do is you can set up in your Google account what's called an inactive account manager. And what you can do is you can set it up so that if your account has not been if you have not accessed your account in a certain period of time, let's say 3 months, another person can be contacted on your behalf to see if everything's okay. So basically, if I set mine up for 6 months, if I don't do anything with my Gmail account for 6 months, my sister will get an email basically from Google saying, hey, is everything okay with Daniel? We noticed he hasn't been online. And then from there, she has the option to delete the account or manage that account based on my wishes. With Google, you can submit a request regarding a deceased user's account. With Facebook, you can have your Facebook account memorialized upon your death, or you can have it deleted upon your death. But all these things have to be set up ahead of time. What does it mean to have a Facebook account memorialized? Basically, what that means is the Facebook account of the deceased person is still out there. It's still active so that people can see photographs of you that you've shared, the posts that you've shared. A perfect example is one of my dear friends, Robert, passed away about 10 months ago. His Facebook account is still active. So I can go to his Facebook account and I can kind of reminisce and go through the photos that he has shared. And I think it's a really wonderful way to help in the mourning process. Some people don't want that. Some people say, you know what, when I'm gone, I want everything deleted, and that's perfectly fine. But state what your wishes are so that all of this is determined ahead of time. As a Facebook user, you can also have a special request for a deceased person's account as well. So if someone dies that I'm not in charge of, I can at least request access to that deceased person. But I'm going to have a lot of proof. I'm going to have to prove who I am, that the person is deceased, and what is my relationship to that person. Microsoft has also created a similar process. And this, I was in a Microsoft community chat room not too long ago, and this person posed the question to Microsoft. My family member died recently, / is in a coma. What do I need to do to access their Microsoft account? Microsoft has instituted what's called a next of kin process to be able to access that person's Microsoft account. Many times, I would say just about in all these cases, if you have not set up or designated someone ahead of time, then the person trying to access your account has to have proof. They might have to provide a death certificate to that company for that account, or a government issued ID. They may have to prove their relationship with the deceased user. They might have to provide a public obituary as well for proof that the person is deceased. So the more you can do ahead of time, the better. You can rest at night knowing that all of this is taken care of. And you've done a huge service to your family or for your family. The fourth tip is to back up your computer. Make sure your computer is continuously backed up using an external hard drive for storage, or use an online service to securely back up your computer files. Okay, more and more of us are not storing files physically on our computer now. Most of us are using the cloud to back up photographs and videos and email. But if you do have files stored on your computer, make sure that those are backed up. And you want to make sure that you have an external hard drive plugged into your computer so that it's constantly being backed up. So for example, I have one of these, it's just called an external hard drive. I have one of these plugged into the back of my computer. It backs up everything on my computer every hour on the hour. And it only backs up what has changed in that hour. Now, I have a ton of stuff on my computer, so I need one of these, but you may not have a lot of stuff on your computer. So a flash drive, or some people call it a flash drive, a thumb drive, a USB drive. One of these might be enough. And back up your computer, give this backup or store it someplace else. You can also back up your computer using an online cloud backup service like Carbonite. Carbonite is probably the most popular one out there. There's Dropbox, there's the Apple iCloud, there's OneDrive. If you're a PC user, Microsoft OneDrive is a cloud backup service. That's another way that you can back up your stuff, so that if you lose everything, you can always retrieve it because it's backed up somewhere else.